Good morning. I'm DonnaRae Menard. I'm a local author, and I'm here at Northwest Public Access TV, and we're reading sections of my novel, Beneath the Fountain. It's a story that happens in St. Albans, Vermont, at Taylor Park near the Goddess Fountain. We've done a few episodes, and we're at a point where Chief Coon and Lynn Steves are having a conversation in Lynn's apartment. Chapter 19. Shannon, you said Chief Coon had received several calls regarding tips about where Mr. Knapp had been during the days before his death. What time is it? Her voice was sleep blurred. I could hear the sheet wrinkles on her face crinkle. After 6, I said. Anyway, about the phone calls. In the morning? Of course, I frowned. It's 6 a.m.? Her voice was rising. Yeah? I couldn't understand why she wasn't answering the questions. I'm going to kill you, she shrilled. Great, I said. Can you come over and get it done right away? I ended the call and ignored the spats of ringing that occurred over the following 20 minutes. It took her 45 minutes to arrive. Even though she looked a little rough around the edges, she already had on makeup and wore a completed ensemble right down to the accessories. She also had the biggest coffee takeout container I have ever seen in my life. Talk. She growled at me the same way Rusty does when I won't share the ice cream. I smiled sweetly. While I was at work, I printed out a street map of St. Albans, then narrowed down the area Mr. Knapp would probably wander around in. What I want to know is where the tips reported someone actually seeing him so that I can overlay that information. Shannon continued to glare at me over the top of the coffee container, but reached into her handbag and without looking, pulled out several pages stapled together. With a flick of her wrist, she flung them across the coffee table. I have to admit I was surprised, not at the direct toss, but at what she carries around in that Gucci suitcase. The pages were lists of hotline calls. Each left was followed by a grid listing time, initials, and the person manning the hotline and the credibility of the call. Then it got interesting. The next column was the name and initials of the person making the call, or if not, M or F. Next came the incoming phone number. I refused to believe everyone gave their number, but it was all right there. Finally, the actual I saw him data. Some of it was easy, like Main Street, Sunday, 1425 hours for 5 minutes. Some data included more facts, with a dark-haired man in a trench coat drinking fresh French roast coffee. Some of these more intimate calls were followed with a captioned question mark. Each call had a number. The second section of pages put it all in chronological order, which was cool because my thought had been that I was going to have to do that. Shannon had dozed off. I took the cup out of her hand and put it on the coffee table. Rusty gave her a sniff and then curled up against her hip. Using my map, I highlighted the place Mr. Knapp had been seen. There were very few outliers. I was right. He lived in a small world. On the east, the border was the hospital. The western border was Cedar Street. North seemed to be China East Restaurant, and to the south, the clinic on the corner of Main and Cliff Streets. There were missing blocks of time, but the longest ones were from 11 p.m. until 7 a.m. There was also a call about the apartment over the fish restaurant. One of the tips said he was there the night before, but not the night he died. The cops and I both knew that he had been there on the 2 nights. I was back at the window when Shannon coughed, yawned, and reached for her coffee. Well, she croaked. I would believe that we can trust the information provided. I turned to her, and I don't want to know how you got it. I have a friend. She walked towards the bathroom. When she returned, she asked me what I was going to do now. I'd like to talk to the woman who saw him at the apartment, I said. Okay, she answered. I'll set it up. I cocked an eyebrow. Hey, I have an in with most people. First, I work at the newspaper. Lots of people want their 15 minutes of fame. Or if that doesn't work, I know a lawyer. Just before my supper break, Shannon showed up dressed in a pencil skirt, a matching jacket, and heels. Let's go, she said. We hustled out the loading dock door, down the alley, and up the stairs to the apartments over the fish restaurant. She hung 2 heavy cameras over my neck and handed me a Palm video recorder, and then told me to keep my mouth shut. The woman who answered the door was expecting us. "Hi, Melissa, Shannon Patnode. I'm called to talk to you about Mr. Knapp." Melissa looked nervously at the camera. "You said just an interview. You didn't say anything about filming it." "No problem," crooned Shannon. Turning to me, she said, "No camera." Like I had an idea how to run the thing. I have to admit, even though we were there only a short time, Shannon was very thorough. We learned Mr. Knapp had been there several times in the month before his death, that an older woman had rented the apartment, but she wasn't there very often. Melissa also said that she believed the woman was there every time Mr. Knapp was, but was never there when he wasn't. "No," said Melissa. "I didn't hear a sound the night the old guy got killed. No fighting, nothing." "Have you seen the woman who rented the apartment since, here or anywhere in town?" asked Shannon. "No," said Melissa. "That's all I've got." Shannon thanked Melissa warmly and we left. "That was pretty cool," I said as we moved back towards the hardware store. "Thank you," Shannon preened. A heartbeat later, we were at the dock doors. "Shannon," I asked, "what are the chances that we could talk to the landlord?" "I thought you'd never ask," she said, continuing toward the Hummer. "Tomorrow morning at 9. She had a sassy little shake going on inside that pencil skirt, but it could have been the 4-inch heels on the uneven paving. We didn't get to talk to the building owners. They referred us to the building manager, who was also the handyman for the restaurant. Even though I was initially disappointed, it worked out well. As the person doing the repairs, Lloyd had insight into what might have transpired behind that closed door. "Yeah, when Olive and Meat opened Jake's Fish, they thought they could handle it all. But between the repairs inside the restaurant, dealing with the help, ordering supplies, and then actually cooking, they decided to hire me." Lloyd was an able-bodied looking guy who sounded very competent. "I deal with working on the building, getting the windows washed, snow shoveled, and the fixing up of the small store at front on the side. Oh, and the apartments, of course." "I saw a gift shop was going in where the florist had been," said Shannon. She was wearing her suit again and had a small tape recorder set up on the table. This time she had identified herself as a legal consultant, hence the dark-rimmed geek glasses. "Olive wanted the gift shop. It was part of the original plan," said Lloyd. "And the renters?" I asked. Lloyd grimaced. "My problem. I just got that apartment fixed up. Now I got to start from scratch." "What can you tell us?" Shannon asked. "Same thing I told the cops," Lloyd said. "A woman applied, I checked her references, and she moved in." He pulled a folded copy of the rental agreement from his shirt pocket. "How long had she been renting?" I asked. The form was complete and looked good. I almost laughed when I looked at the applicant's name. I expected it to be Hogue, which it was not. It was Knapp. Her lease said a year, but she was only there 2 months. Lloyd shook his head. "We lost money on that one. The repairs I'm going to have to make will suck up what she put down." He took a slug of coffee. "It's weird, though. Other than a few dishes, there was no furniture except for what was already in there. And there was street dust all over everything. It almost looked like the place had been vacant since the get-go." We paid for his coffee and breakfast sandwich and left. "What are you thinking?" Shannon asked. "Mr. Knapp was targeted," I said. "Why?" "I don't know, unless he told somebody about the money his sister left for him," I answered. "Tori said he didn't even know it was there," said Shannon. "I know, but I think somebody did." While I was getting ready for work, I thought about what Tori had said. Mr. Knapp didn't seem to be aware of the money. How was I going to know for sure? I hustled up to Teresa's. If I was fast, I could get my errand done and get back to work on time. "You've been working at the soup kitchen for years," I said. "How long has Mr. Knapp been going there?" "He was there when I started," said Teresa. Her hands smoothly shaped the swirling clay. I dotted away from a flying splatter. "What was his relationship with his sister?" "She came with him a few times. She was older, always attentive." Teresa worked as she spoke. It was clear she loved him, and though she tried to save him from himself before, was resigned to just protecting him now. "What about Mr. Knapp, Therese? How was he when she passed away?" The wheel stopped and the clay sagged. "We tried to talk to him after she passed," Teresa said. "I know his social worker well. He didn't seem to get it. Every time we mentioned his sister, he'd tell us about her job in Washington. He was so proud of her. I know he never understood about the money. The final decision was that he would be allowed to go along as he was until his need grew. Why are you asking this? She was staring at me with those eagle eyes of hers. I feel bad. I'm trying to understand. She nodded. It's okay, Lynn. It wasn't your fault. I know. I told her I had to run to get to work. As I hustled out the gate, Randall handed me a paper bag with my name on it. Supper, he said. I love those people. Chapter 20. The television in Clyde's office was there for his singular use to watch, of all things, golf. That didn't stop me from turning on the Channel 3 news while I was working at the computer. Shannon had left a cryptic text telling me that there was a news bite I was going to want to see. 3/4 of the way through the broadcast, there was a 15-second reference to Mr. Knapp. This one included a shot of a pricey house with a large hedge out front. Behind the house, I could see a lake. Shutting off the television, I dialed Shannon and turned on the speakerphone. You wanted me to see the house, right? I asked. Did you recognize it? She asked. Or the lake? Seriously? Do you have any idea how many lakes there are in the United States? I frowned, backspaced, and re-entered. That particular lake is Champlain. That house is on the Swanton Shore Road, said Shannon. What? My hands froze over the keyboard. Yep, about 2 miles from where I live, said Shannon. Seems that's where Mr. Knapp's sister lived. I drive past it twice almost every day. She may have had a government job in Washington, but she worked from home right here in Vermont. I was silent. Hello, Shannon said. I was thinking. Suddenly I saw a whole different perspective. Are you still there? She asked. Shannon, this isn't about Mr. Knapp, I said. It's about his sister. Huh? We know she left him a lot of money, enough to take care of him for the rest of his life. I was shaking. What if she had more? What did it all go to? What exactly did she do in Washington? I was thinking espionage, but was afraid if I said the words, they would be true. On it, said Shannon. The line was dead. She was gone. Chapter 21. Though I had been having problems sleeping through the night a few short weeks ago, I was over it now. The reason being that lately Shannon, the night owl, was at my house for hours before I could go to bed. Even Rusty was getting tired of seeing her. Barbara Knapp, said Shannon, was the personal assistant to the Secretary of State. She goes with the job. In other words, her boss changes, but her job doesn't, no matter what party is in the seat. Probably because it would take 4 years for someone new to figure it all out. She was known for being perceptive and wicked smart. She also had the highest security clearance given a civilian, and according to local sources, had a nodding acquaintance with several presidents. Not to mention tea with the First Ladies, and was instrumental in the Easter at the White House event. She had a post office box address at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Shannon paused. I shrugged. The White House. Shannon rolled her eyes. She commuted between Washington and Vermont, but in later years spent a great deal of time here. Barbara Knapp's only living relative was a much younger brother who she adored, and who, because of a military head wound, suffered from PTSD, depression, and some other mental illness I haven't uncovered yet. How do you know all this? I asked. Barbara had a live-in housekeeper who now lives at Sunny Villa Estates in Florida. It's an assisted living community. I contacted someone there and have been Skyping with Miss Everetts. I shook my head. There seemed to be no end to the people Shannon knew. I hadn't wanted to share information, but Shannon was touching a lot of people. Okay, I said, brewing a cup of sleepy time tea. What else? Not much. Barbara was a philanthropist. She was 83 when she passed away. At the time of her brother's death, any money left in his bequest was slated to go to the Veterans of Foreign Wars Fund. My unsipped tea was growing cold on the counter. Lloyd said the woman was older, thin, wore glasses, and told him she had moved here from Washington, D.C. because she had family nearby, I said. Shannon watched me from over the top of her cheaters. That matches the description Tori gave me of Barbara Knapp. It could have been a subtle trip to confuse Hank. He hadn't seen his sister in a while. He missed her. This person offered him food and a warm place to sleep. Eventually, they asked him to do something, and he wasn't able to accomplish the task. I walked back to the window. And because he didn't, and they couldn't know what he would remember, he became a liability. He couldn't do what they wanted, said Shannon, because Barbara had set in place parameters that would protect Hank. Exactly, I said. This person didn't know that. They reacted in anger. Maybe Hank's defense mechanism kicked in. There was an altercation, and he died. Why didn't they just leave the body in the apartment? Shannon asked. I shrugged. I don't know. This wasn't their plan, and they panicked? Or maybe there were more than one of them, and the final decision was that with a bit of time, they could figure out a way to fool the system. They put the body under the tarp, never expecting one of the workmen to find it. You mean fool the bank? Like with Valina? Shannon came to stand beside me. I looked over the street from building to building, pole to pole. Let's go for a walk, I said. When we got down to the sidewalk, Shannon asked me what I was looking for. Cameras, surveillance equipment, I said. Okay, so we know that between the traffic cameras and this business block, Main Street is covered, said Shannon. How about Fairfax Street? We circled the park. There's a camera on the old town office building and the museum, but nothing on the church on the corner. The front of the restaurant is covered, but not the side, I said. So if you came down Newton Street Hill and parked before Church Street, there wouldn't be any record. Would someone go through all that trouble? Asked Shannon. If you were about to commit a crime that could be classified as a felony, particularly if you were going to do it more than once, you'd be checking everything, I said, 1 foot on the staircase leading up to the apartments. True fact, said Shannon. Where are we going? One more thing to look at, I said, tiptoeing past the occupied apartment until I was at the railing over Main Street. Look around, I said. You can see the cameras from here. As near as I can tell, none of them are going to get to the second floor of this building unless you step up to the rail, and definitely not at night if there isn't a light on here. I was sure of the facts I had just given Shannon, but I never considered something like the do-gooder across the street taking my picture with their phone. Chapter 22. I had just gotten into bed when Chief Coon was knocking on my door. I peeked over the safety chain. I was sleeping, I said. Maybe he'd go away. This will only take a minute, Coon replied. I could see the officer behind him, a woman. I knew regardless of what they said, this wasn't going to be all that fast. Hold on. I pulled on jeans and a sweatshirt. Mind telling me why you were across the street in the second-story porch? He asked, as soon as he was across the door sill. Can I get you a coffee? I offered. There was no way I wanted him sticking around, but evidently he knew where I'd been. For a brief second, I considered total denial. It seems, he said, a concerned citizen sent us a photo taken of you this evening. That was it. Bite the bullet. He hadn't mentioned Shannon, and I couldn't remember if she'd stepped up the railing when I did. Morbid curiosity. I dropped into my chair. He frowned. The officer with him was doing a poor job of being discreet while scoping out my place. Are you looking for something? I asked her. She looked guilty. I motioned them both to the sofa. Maybe my best plan was to act like just any other nosy neighbor, or should I get hysterical? No, better to go with the basic facts only. This is the chair I sit in all the time. I stood up. I can see the park. This is where I was when I saw the lights. If you step over here, you can see straight across to the apartment where Mr. Knapp died. I can't believe that something like that happened under my nose and I saw nothing. I went there because I thought maybe some hidden nugget of memory would surface. Did it? Coon asked. I couldn't tell if he was buying my story or not. No. He opened his mouth, but I waved him to silence. You think I might be in cahoots because I saw the lights and I found the lady in the scarlet dress. You told me I was a suspect. You never came back and told me that I wasn't. I've been sitting on pins and needles since our meeting. I needed to do something. Coon's face didn't change, but the officer gave it away. I sat down again. You don't understand how distressing this is to me. My ex-husband wants to deny my shared custody rights to my children because of it. The officer looked concerned. Don't you think if I was guilty, I would have taken off by this time? Not to mention I wouldn't be giving you all this information. He watched me. She nodded. I was wrong to go there, Chief Coon, I said. It was stupid. I can't help it. Please figure this out so that both Mr. Knapp and I can rest. I know I looked haggard. She was buying it. I could only hope that he was too. After a moment, Coon stood up. The officer jumped to her feet. Thank you for your time, he said, walking to the door. I made coffee. It was going to be a long night. The phone woke me up mid-morning. I'd fallen asleep in my chair and had a long line of dried-out drool running across my cheek. Don't forget, Shannon chirped, tonight is theater night. Have you memorized your lines? What? I asked. To be honest, at that moment, I had no idea what she was talking about. Lynn, tonight you're going to be in the production at the hotel, remember? Have you even looked at the tape? Read the lines? The answer was no and no. I had made arrangements with Clyde to leave work early, but that was as far as I had gotten. I spent the rest of the morning before I headed to work watching the video, reading and rereading the sections of the script Harley had marked. I wasn't ready when I left for the hardware, nor was I up to speed when I arrived at the hotel. In the parking lot, I had to pry my ice-cold fingers off the steering wheel. The hotel had sealed off the dining room. There was an hour and a half before curtain time. A desk clerk directed me, and I hesitantly entered a room hissing with the buzz of 30-odd people. Some were practicing their lines. One lady repeatedly dropped to the floor in a faint, and the hotel staff giggled as they finished setting up the circular 10-seater tables. Bottled water in hand, I looked for a place to check in. Across the room, Shannon stood up, made eye contact, and sat down. It knocked me over to see her sitting calmly like she belonged there. I headed toward her but came to a stop when Harley called my name. Before I could turn, he had my arm, towing me out the side door. Where are we going? My hands fumbled to hold on to the water. A quick fitting, then makeup, he enthused. That explained the white cloth wrapped around his shoulders and the eyeshadow. Shannon, known for always perfect makeup and just out today designer clothing, appeared at my elbow wearing, of all things, a cocktail dress. Ready to go? She smiled. I've been walking around a little since I arrived an hour ago. She paused, I'm sure for effect, chatting with people, getting the lowdown as it were. I wanted to ask her what she found out, but Harley had stopped and pushed me toward a big-bosomed woman who had to be 6 feet tall. Wardrobe, he trilled. Well, thank you for your time, Miss Steve, said Shannon. I'm off to wander around, listening in, eavesdropping really, to all the fabulous goings-ons for the rest of the evening. Don't leave me, I whispered to the little woman that I thought was my best friend. Thin air swallowed Shannon up. I turned looking for Harley. I found him seated on a stool while this Twinkie with bright pink hair finished his makeup. He kept repeating the same line, "This way to your table." The wardrobe mistress spun me around, shoved the waitress uniform into my hand, and pointed to a folding curtain that offered no privacy. She said when I emerged. Are you sure you're a size 10? Nice. So maybe I had chowed a little heavy the last few days. Call it pre-show jitters for crying out loud. Thank goodness for the lighting here is all from the ceiling, she said. Maybe no one will notice a few bulging seams. She reminded me of the class bully. During my 8th grade year, we moved to Winooski, a city the size of St. Albans. Winooski abuts Burlington, a big city, and families migrated from there as well. They were a tough crowd. In high school, I was an open target. Maybe I still smelled like cows. But I seemed to spend a lot of afternoons crawling under cars to hide from groups of girls who wanted to hurt me. I adapted to reading their signals and ran fast enough to make the track team. I read the wardrobe mistress's utterance as I was about to be the laughing stock of Franklin County. She dumped me on makeup, and I got the baby blue twin to the hot pink Twinkie. I heard his stomach gurgle. Oops, he giggled. I'll be right back. Probably a bad enchilada, said Shannon. Her return brought home the reason for me sitting here and the accompanying tension. But the smell of coffee and the paper cup that had appeared in front of me was a relaxer. "Thanks, Shannon," I said. "No problem. I need to look like I'm busy because there's a hawk in a jacket eyeballing me." Following her eyes, I made out the dining room manager directing his employees. Shannon looked out of place. Dressed for an evening out, she didn't look like either a hotel employee or one of the actors from the 1920s era Mystery Theater. Shannon stuck around until the heavy makeup was plastered on me from ear to ear, and I vacated the stool for the next poor schmuck. "Ooh, white polyester," Shannon said, eyeing the waitress costume as soon as the makeup cape had been whisked away. "And what are you going to do now?" Thank you very much for joining me today. I'm DonnaRae Menard. My novel is Beneath the Fountain. Please feel free to let me know on my website, DonnaRaeMenardBooks.com, whether or not you're enjoying my reading. Have a great day.